In the war in Ukraine, much of the attention in recent years has naturally focused on drones and other unmanned systems. In the air, at sea, and increasingly on the ground, these autonomous and semi-autonomous systems have fundamentally changed the way the war is waged and represent its future. These unmanned weapon systems have inflicted unprecedented destruction on much heavier, more expensive systems like tanks and armored vehicles. And that's led to a growing number of voices suggesting that these traditional heavyweights of the battlefield are becoming obsolete. But if you ask the soldiers on the front line, they'll tell you at least one stalwart of 20th century warfare remains as important as ever: artillery. Artillery shells and rockets fired from multi-launch rocket systems, or MLRS, may not offer the end-to-end precision and maneuverability of FPV and heavier kamikaze drones, but they still cause huge damage to enemy forces on and just behind the front lines. And now, thanks to a Spanish innovation, Ukraine's basic MLRS system, the Grad BM-21, is being converted from firing dumb rounds into a launcher of precision-guided munitions. Here's how it works, and why it could make a massive difference on the battlefield. Spanish company EM&E has created precision guidance kits that increase the BM-21's rocket's accuracy from hundreds of yards down to just a few. The news of the introduction of these kits first emerged publicly at the Eurosatory 2026 Defense Expo at Parc d'Exposition de Villepinte in Paris, France. The 2026 edition was marked by a significant surge in Ukrainian participation, up from just 5 exhibitors in 2024 to over 80 companies 2 years later. Ukrainian firms showcase unmanned systems, electronic warfare solutions, and long-range strike capabilities. Firepoint, for example, presented its Freya anti-ballistic program and new long-range weaponry, while Thermo Projects Ukraine demonstrated mobile climate control systems for military vehicles. But it wasn't just new capabilities in unmanned systems and other ultra-high-tech systems on display. MLRS innovations were also high on the agenda. Lockheed Martin unveiled the HIMARS Flex, a modular evolution of its famous MLRS. The Flex features a dual-pod launcher that doubles ammunition capacity from 6 rockets to 12. Crucially, this variant can fire air defense interceptors, including Patriot PAC-3 missiles, alongside standard GMLRS and ATACMS, adding a layered missile defense capability to the strike platform. European consortium KNDS revealed the Long-Range Artillery System, or LORAS demonstrator. It utilizes a new 155mm 58 caliber gun to achieve ranges of 50 to 62 miles with precision ammunition, bridging the gap between traditional howitzers and MLRS. New variants of the Global Mobile Artillery Rocket System, or HIMARS, a collaboration between Rheinmetall and Lockheed Martin, were also unveiled, albeit somewhat overshadowed by the HIMARS Flex announcement. All of these systems will likely find their way into the service of Ukraine's armed forces over time. But in the meantime, it was another MLRS innovation unveiled at the Expo that's likely to make a much more immediate difference. In fact, it probably already is. According to EM&E, which is short for Escribano Mechanical and Engineering, over 11,000 of its guidance kits for BM-21 rockets have already been delivered to Ukraine since 2023, with tens of thousands more set to follow. Why is that potentially a game changer? Well, in a nutshell, the kits increase the accuracy of the rockets dramatically. According to the company, it's producing 2 types of guidance kits for Ukraine. The first uses satellite or GNSS and inertial or INS navigation. These kits reduce the circular error probable of BM-21 munitions from a baseline of 656 to 1,640 feet down to around just 49 feet. That's a massive difference, but it gets even better. A laser-guided variant was reportedly also developed at Ukraine's request, and it achieves an accuracy of less than 10 feet, even under active electronic warfare and jamming conditions. By the first quarter of 2026, 1,000 kits in this configuration had reportedly been delivered. The laser variant is somewhat longer than the GNSS-INS version and features 4 independently controlled forward fins rather than 2. But both variants are universal, meaning they're compatible with all the various rockets that can be fired from the Grad. They also appear to be compatible with Ukraine's adaptations and modernizations of the system, which we'll discuss a little later on. The standard rocket that Ukraine uses with its Grads is the unguided M21OF 122mm rocket, a solid-fuel projectile designed for high explosive fragmentation effects against area targets. The rocket weighs around 145.5 pounds in total, incorporating a 40.54-pound warhead charged with TNT-based explosive such as TGAF-5. Launched from the system's pods, it achieves a muzzle velocity of around 2,264 feet per second, enabling a maximum range of around 12.5 miles. It's a particularly nasty munition. The M21OF warhead's internal scoring generates approximately 3,950 fragments weighing half a gram or more upon detonation, which disperse over a lethal radius of roughly 92 to 131 feet. So, these rockets are ideal for saturation fire for aerial denial and are particularly effective against exposed infantry concentrations and light vehicles lacking armor protection. The standard BM-21 features a 40-tube launcher and can discharge its full load in as little as 20 seconds, achieving an effective firing rate of approximately 120 rockets per minute per vehicle. In standard battery configurations that often involve multiple coordinated launchers, hundreds or thousands of projectiles can be delivered in coordinated salvos, saturating target zones in areas exceeding 1,300 feet in diameter per launcher salvo. These barrages are a terrifying thing to face. They induce significant psychological disruption on top of the area denial, compelling enemy forces to seek cover and halt maneuvers for extended periods. The incoming rockets produce a characteristic screeching noise that heightens fear and disorientation, amplifying the non-lethal effects on troop morale and cohesion. Combined with the wide dispersal of high-explosive fragmentation warheads, this means a typical salvo can suppress enemy infantry or artillery batteries for 10 to 20 minutes by denying safe movement and forcing dispersal. This ability to provide immediate, high-density fire in attritional frontline conditions is why Grads continue to form the backbone of rocket artillery for both the Ukrainian and Russian sides, despite the rise of drones and counter-battery radars. But there have been a couple of long-standing issues, which the new kits help to resolve. The main drawback with the M21OF, also known as the 9M22U, is its limited accuracy. These unguided spin-stabilized projectiles follow a ballistic trajectory influenced by factors such as wind and launch angle, resulting in substantial dispersion that increases with distance. They're also somewhat limited in range, but that limitation has been reduced through the use of newer extended-range rockets, such as the 9M521 and the 9M522, which significantly increase the system's reach. These rockets feature improved aerodynamics and propellant, extending the effective range to anywhere from 18 to 28 miles. This allows Grads to strike deeper behind enemy lines while staying out of immediate counter-battery range. Ukraine has also made extensive use of specialized rounds for the BM-21. For example, the 9M519 is a radio-electronic jamming rocket designed to disrupt enemy communications. The 9M42 and 9M43 are illumination and target-marking rockets used to light up the battlefield at night or designate targets for other artillery units. The BM-21 family also includes the thermobaric 122mm rockets, which create massive overpressure waves that are extremely effective against personnel in trenches and fortified structures. The EM&E kits are reportedly compatible with all of the 122mm munition types Ukraine uses with its Grads. That means all of these rockets just got a lot more accurate. The kits are also compatible with single-launch tubes and possess another characteristic that may prove decisive in the long run. They're completely ITAR-free. ITAR, the abbreviation of the International Traffic in Arms Regulations, is a set of US government regulations that govern the export, import, and temporary transfer of US defense-related articles, services, and technical data. Its primary goal is to safeguard US national security and advance foreign policy by preventing sensitive military technology from reaching adversaries. ITAR-regulated items often come with strict end-user agreements that limit where and how the weapon can be used. They can also be subject to license delays and even potential embargoes. The key benefit of an ITAR-free system is that it doesn't need US State Department approval to use, modify, or transfer the equipment. The US can't veto the deployment or re-export of ITAR-free systems to third parties, for example, sending them to Ukraine. So, production and maintenance can continue even if US political priorities shift. Ukraine has already been caught by these shifting US priorities on several occasions during the war. The fact that the EM&E kits are ITAR-free means they won't be subject to US political whims or the changing inventory needs of the US military. They turn an aging, imprecise saturation weapon into a precision-guided rocket, just like a HIMARS, and that gives it a new lease on life. Until now, Ukraine's Grads and other modified Soviet-era MLRS systems have played a different role than its US-made HIMARS and M270 MLRS systems. On the one hand, the BM-21 Grad has primarily served as Ukraine's high-volume, short-range artillery workhorse. On the other hand, its Western-supplied HIMARS and M270 MLRS have been used more in precision and deep strike roles. That's because while the Grad offers superior saturation firepower for frontline trenches, it's lacked the range, accuracy and survivability of its NATO counterparts. Until now. Compared to the BM-21 salvo of 40 unguided 122mm rockets, the M142 HIMARS and M270 MLRS fire 6 or 12 guided 227mm GMLRS rockets respectively. The Western systems utilize GPS INS guidance to achieve circular error probabilities within 16 to 33 feet. This high degree of accuracy allows them to destroy specific high-value targets like command posts and ammo depots with a single rocket rather than a blanket barrage. The M142 HIMARS and M270 MLRS also have a significant advantage over standard Grad missiles in terms of range. As compared to the Grad missile's range of 12.4 to 28 miles, standard HIMARS M270 systems firing GMLRS rockets reach 50 to 56 miles. When equipped with ATACMS 610mm caliber tactical missiles, they can strike targets up to 186 miles away. This allows Ukrainian forces to hit Russian logistics and command nodes far behind the front line, a capability the Grad fundamentally lacks. The new Spanish guidance kits don't extend the range of the BM-21's rockets per se, but they do make them several orders of magnitude more accurate. That means high-precision strikes on frontline positions that were previously only possible with drones, which typically carry smaller warheads and are thus less effective against fortified positions. That's particularly significant for Ukraine for two main reasons. The first is that, unlike GLMRS or ATACMS rockets, Ukraine isn't reliant on the US or other partners for Grad rocket supplies. It inherited huge stockpiles when it gained independence from the Soviet Union and continues to manufacture them domestically. The Shepativka repair plant in the town of Shepativka in Khmelnytsky Oblast in western Ukraine, part of the state defense corporation Ukroboronprom, has long been the central hub for producing 122mm rockets. However, with much of Ukraine's defense manufacturing now conducted in classified locations, it's unclear whether the plant remains the primary manufacturer. The site was reportedly hit on multiple occasions by Russian missile strikes in 2023 and 2025. In addition, thanks to the widespread deployment of the Grad over the years, there's plenty of ammunition still floating around out there if and when Ukraine needs to purchase more. Around 100,000 Grad BM-21 systems are believed to have been produced in total, finding their way into service with at least 72 militaries around the world and almost every major war since the 1960s. Ukraine is even known to have procured BM-21 missiles from the US back in 2022. Now, tired of seeing the same old stories with the same old angles on every YouTube channel? Well, subscribe to The Military Show for a fresh perspective. We dig beneath the headlines to bring you the most important military news and why it matters. So subscribe and enable notifications so you're always the first to know. Now, like so many other Soviet-era systems that it inherited, Ukraine hasn't just sat still, using up the supplies of aging Soviet BM-21s that it inherited. When Russia invaded in February 2022, Ukraine possessed approximately 260 BM-21 Grad systems, with some sources estimating an inventory as high as 600 units. By 2024, the number of systems remaining in Ukrainian service had decreased to roughly 100, with at least 54 variants visually confirmed to have been lost in combat by December 2024. But very few of those remaining are the original Soviet systems, because Ukraine has been actively upgrading and modernizing them to create weapons suitable for the battlefields of today. Much of its modernization efforts have focused on mounting the launchers onto more modern truck chassis. The launcher itself works reliably and hasn't needed too much attention by the looks of it. It consists of a reusable pod with 40 launch tubes arranged in a 4x10 rectangular array, which is hydraulically elevated from 0 to 55 degrees for firing and rotated forward over the cab for transit to minimize the silhouette and facilitate simple transport. 2 hydraulic jacks at the rear are extended to brace the vehicle against recoil forces, adding stability during launch, particularly when off-road. The pods are reloaded manually or with auxiliary equipment from a separate ammunition carrier truck, a process which typically takes 5 to 10 minutes for a trained crew. This design emphasizes quick setup and teardown, a feature integral to the system's role in massed high-volume fire support. But the chassis onto which the launchers were originally mounted is now well beyond its sell-by date. To be sure, as the system's enduring popularity suggests, the original Ural 375D 6x6 truck chassis is rugged and fit for purpose. Its all-wheel drive and high ground clearance are exactly what's required to navigate the rough roads and off-road conditions of rural eastern Ukraine. However, the Ural 375D's 180 horsepower engine means its speed is limited to around 46.6 miles per hour on highways, increasing its exposure to aerial threats. That's a particular problem in the age of drones, because the forward cab for the driver and crew is unarmored, emphasizing the Grad's prioritization of simplicity and rapid deployment over protected operations. But for Ukraine, there's an even bigger issue with the Ural 375D. The chassis and spare parts are made in Russia. Relying on supplies from its enemy is obviously completely unfeasible. So ever since the early 2000s, Ukraine has been actively mounting its Grad launchers onto upgraded truck chassis. In particular, the Ukrainian-made Kraz 260 and its modern successors like the Kraz 6322. The advantages of using the Ukrainian chassis extend well beyond the procurement of parts. It's much more powerful for one thing. The Kraz 260 is powered by the YAMS 238L 14.9L V8 diesel engine, which produces 300 horsepower as compared to the 180 horsepower offered by the Ural 375D's ZIL 375 7-litre V8 petrol engine. The diesel engine also provides significantly better fuel economy, doubling the truck's operational range to around 620 miles. The more powerful Kraz engine maintains a superior power-to-weight ratio, improving acceleration and hill climbing ability when fully loaded with rockets. But the Kraz 260 also doubles the capacity to a 9-ton payload, allowing the addition of heavier modern equipment such as armored cabs, automated reloading systems, and extra ammunition storage. The Kraz chassis is specifically designed to integrate more easily with modern digital fire control systems, GPS navigation, and automated stabilization units, which reduce setup time by up to 4 times and improve accuracy. That's why since the early 2000s, Ukraine has been actively developing new variants of the Grad based on the Kraz chassis. These include the BM21K, which features a modified double-cab Kraz 260 chassis with an improved fire control system. The Bastion 1 and Bastion 2 are also modernizations based on the Kraz 260 chassis, with the latter featuring storage space for an additional 40 missiles. There's also the Verba, a modernization based on a modified double-cab Kraz 6322 chassis with a digital fire control system. Ukraine has even developed a mini Grad that uses pipes from the original BM21 Grad mounted on pickup trucks. These mini Grads fire 3 missiles in a row, as opposed to 10, albeit with greater accuracy. According to Ukrainian military analyst Alexander Musienko, there are 3 advantages in using mini Grads. Their extra mobility enables them to move fast. Units that have them can fire on a target without waiting to summon artillery from elsewhere, and they offer extra firepower for lightly armed infantry units. But the Ukrainian Grad innovations certainly don't stop there. In May 2026, the 50th Artillery Brigade showcased modernized BM21 variants with brand new anti-drone protection. The most noticeable feature of the upgraded Grad systems is the extensive additional armor. The launch tube assembly has been fitted with a grille made of solid grating, extending in the direction of fire, a common feature of this type of weapon system. There's also a complex mesh structure in front of the vehicle's cab that closely resembles similar designs seen on Ukrainian tanks and armored vehicles. The structure can be folded up or down as needed, allowing simplified access to the engine for maintenance or repairs. When folded up, it almost certainly provides better visibility of the road ahead. Dome-shaped electronic warfare equipment has also been mounted on the top of the cab, a necessity on today's drone-saturated battlefields. The doors have also been fitted with reinforced grills designed to improve crew survivability against kamikaze drones. So, all of Ukraine's Grad variants have become significantly more survivable. And now, thanks to the introduction of EM&E's guidance kits, their rockets are in the same ballpark of accuracy as the HIMARS and M270. That gives Ukraine a new edge on the battlefield. Its Grad variants are no longer just useful for saturating an area with terror. They can now deliver 40 pinpoint strikes in a matter of seconds, and at a fraction of the cost of firing HIMARS rockets. MLRS rockets cost approximately $150,000 to $200,000 each and rely on Western supply chains, making them a scarce resource reserved for high-priority targets. ATACMS missiles cost between $1 million and $1.7 million per unit, depending on the variant. By comparison, a standard unguided BM-21 rocket costs in the region of $1,000 to $10,000, depending on the manufacturer, age, and type of missile. True, to ensure hitting a specific target directly, you'd probably only need to fire a single GMLRS or ATACMS missile, whereas a full salvo of 40 unguided BM-21 rockets would likely be required to achieve the same effect. That reduces the cost difference significantly, but with the introduction of the EM&E kits, the cost for a guided precision rocket just fell through the floor for Ukraine. And that's likely to be just the first major benefit from what looks like an exciting new partnership for the Ukrainian military. Because the collaboration with EM&E doesn't stop at guidance kits. In May 2025, Ukroboronprom signed a memorandum with EM&E to jointly develop weapons and localize Spanish module production within Ukraine. Separately, Ukrainian UAV manufacturer Skyton signed a cooperation agreement with the company in March 2026. What these agreements mean in practice isn't entirely clear yet, but a quick look at the other systems being developed by EM&E surely makes unpleasant viewing for the Russian leadership. The company's flagship product is the Guardian 30 remote turret, and it's reportedly already in action in Ukraine. This is a remotely controlled weapon station armed with a 30mm automatic cannon, typically the Mk44 Bushmaster II, and a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun. It's designed for integration onto armored vehicles like Ukraine's BTR-3-4 or crash chassis to provide enhanced crew protection. EM&E also makes the Guardian 2.0 RWS, a lighter remote weapon station capable of mounting medium 7.62 or 12.7mm machine guns or 40mm automatic grenade launchers. It features advanced day-night cameras and laser rangefinders for precision engagement. The company also produces specialized electronic warfare and kinetic systems designed to detect and neutralize drones. These include drone detection radars and jamming systems that can be integrated with their turrets or deployed as standalone static mobile units to protect forward operating bases. EM&E also provides advanced virtual training simulators for armored vehicle crews and artillery operators, enabling cost-effective training without live ammunition consumption. We'll of course keep you updated as Ukraine and EM&E introduce even newer systems, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel to hear about it first. In the meantime, check out this video about how Ukraine is constructing a robot army. Thanks for watching.